Hello there.
Hi, Christine.
Lynn Schlegel is back.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
How's Meredith? Do you talk to her?
I really don't. I just through Facebook and she seems to be doing great.
Yeah, it looks like her and the kids and the husband are doing well, which is good.
Yeah. I know Dan was at Temple his first year this year, so that got a little interrupted.
Yeah.
But he's doing well.
Good.
Say hi to her.
I know. I should. You're right. I should.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a note to do that. You're right.
Hop in.
All right. Let's see. What time do we have? We're a little early. Yes. Look at us. We're early today. Who knew?
Christine, I miss you. You're on mute. Is this your first rodeo?
I know, right? I'm like, I have Zoom phobia. It's so nice to see you. I miss you tons. When this COVID thing is over, let's have cocktails.
Oh my gosh, please.
Yeah.
Well, I am doing virtual happy hours pretty much nightly, so I can plug you in anytime.
Don't you have Zoomitis? Like by the end of the day, I don't want to look at Zoom. No?
No.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And I have that damn house party app, and every time I log in, my mom's face is right there.
Oh, I haven't done that yet.
Oh, it is pretty funny, but I can, as soon as I log on, my mom must get a notification.
Oh, yeah.
She's there.
She's there.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Keith's here. Hi, Keith.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Tori promised she was going to have Charlie make a guest appearance.
Oh,
I'm looking for her.
He's so cute.
I know.
he's the best.
Oh, look at us. We're so early today.
I know. Did you
Everyone
guys have your practice?
We did.
All right. You're just getting so good at it that it's fast.
Exactly. That's right. Now we know there's different calls and different links.
Yeah. How long you staying in the Berg?
I think until next weekend. I think until Memorial Day. Yeah,
That sounds crazy to think that that's next weekend.
it sure is.
I think it's
It
still
sure
March.
does. I know. I mean, May feels like such a short month. I think also Memorial Day is like on the 24th, and like it's not the 31st until the following weekend or something like that. So that's why also.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Kind of seems like the calendar stopped in March though, and everything since then has just been this blur of
Agreed.
Groundhog Day stuff.
Agreed.
And it looks like for, at least for some of the boroughs outside of Philadelphia, it's going to be closed until June 4th.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Hi, Annette.
Although-
Sorry I didn't get to meet you on the pre-call.
Keith.
I was just saying, I'm in Pittsburgh this weekend. It's opening to the yellow zone on Friday. And all that really means is you can gather in groups of 25 instead of 10. But nothing else is really different. I don't know. Just, still the same. Although things are much more lax here. People are wearing masks, but not social distancing. So I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I went to pick up dinner at Mother's Day and there were tons of people like crammed in the lobby of this restaurant. I was like,
Oh, wow.
scared over a little, let me get through. It's weird how you have a natural reaction to that now, which we never would have thought of 3 months ago, right? It's just like people
yeah.
get too close and you start to get a little skeeved, but
Yeah, I know.
That's how I'm becoming in my home when my kids get too close to me.
Just back away. Listen, Jack, back up a little bit.
Social distance.
Stop hugging me.
I have to confess, so my daughter, who's 26 years old, she lives in New York City, so she's been with us since March. And I honestly do love my daughter. I do.
There's a caveat. There's a caveat.
She's been with us since mid-March, and I'm like, don't you have to go home at some time? Yeah, like, oh my gosh. Oh.
That's what I'm saying to my 6-year-olds.
I can't use that as an excuse. My daughter's 26.
Shelley, I'm thinking I have a key to your house. I might go there.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well,
because I like literally need separation. Everybody's driving me crazy. You might come home and surprisingly find me in your kitchen.
Vicky sent me a text and said maybe we could social distance like outside for a cocktail. I'm like, well, I'm like 350 miles away. Maybe when I get back.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's see. I have a few minutes after 4. Let's just give it another minute. I don't see Charlie on the call yet. Mm-hmm.
Tori's not showing her face. Tori's not showing her face yet.
Tori. Mm-hmm. There she is.
Sure, I'm here.
Hi.
Want to see Charlie? Hang on 1 second.
Once we see Charlie, then we can get started.
Hey, buddy.
I lost her again. Where'd she go?
Hi.
There he is.
Oh, hi, Charlie. Oh, he's sweet.
Yeah, he's good.
How cute. Well, now we can officially begin. Charlie is here.
All right.
All right, let's get going. Hi, everybody. Welcome to HR at Home. In typical fashion, we have a cast of favorites for you today, as well as another really great guest speaker, Annette Favorite, who's the Senior Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer at West Pharmaceutical Services, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about what West is doing to think about the future of work. So happy to have her. And if you're a new attendee, these are our objectives. Pretty simple. It's just an opportunity for us to all stay connected with each other. We get a few quick minutes on legal updates from Keith Black, who's going to share with us what legal things have changed since last Wednesday. As I mentioned, Annette's going to be talking to us about some things that they're implementing at West about the future of work. And of course, beverages are always optional and encouraged. So with that, I'll turn it over to Keith.
Great. Thank you, Shelley. Much like last week when I talked about how there weren't a whole lot of new laws, that's kind of the case now as well. The one thing that I did want to point out in terms of clarification from the Department of Labor, because a number of clients have asked, is if we have an employee who's in a high risk group, so they're over 65 or there's an underlying medical condition, can we keep them out of work for their own protection? And the Department of Labor clarified that you cannot, and that they're going to follow the ADA rules on that you have to show a threat, an actual threat to them or to another person. So just be really careful. It often comes from a good place and a place of caring and being paternalistic, but older folks, pregnant employees, individuals with underlying health conditions, just be really careful that you can't be treating them differently. But what really was interesting now is we're starting to see this kind of spate of lawsuits and legal actions coming in now that have kind of been anticipated from a lot in the employment bar, but we're starting to see them happen now. We have, there's over 25 retaliation and whistleblower lawsuits that have been filed. Big one recently involved this individual at the law firm in Dallas. I don't know if any of you saw that. He went on Facebook with a rant about not having to wear a mask, and if anybody at a drugstore or wherever he went was going to require him to wear a mask, he would show them his Glock or something like that, and basically threatened to shoot anybody who would force him to wear a mask into their store. So the law firm got wind of it, as they always do, and fired him that day. So the lesson there, just be aware. People are starting to get a bit frayed, and and frustrated, and be aware that, again, if your employees are doing or saying things on social media, we should be aware of some of that stuff. And the law firm reported him to the authorities as a threat and terminated him. There was a big lawsuit, class action filed by 700 roughly Hooters employees who claim that Hooters violated the WARN Act by not giving them 60 days notice. It'll be interesting to see how that one turns out, because there's kind of a natural disaster, national emergency kind of clause in there that would potentially get them off the hook from the 60-day notice. But then there was also a big one, about 700 employees filing against Hair Cuttery, because Hair Cuttery shut down all of their stores mid-pay week, and the allegation in the lawsuit is that they owe them wages. They shut them down in the middle of a pay week and didn't pay them for wages they'd already earned. So there are a whole lot of things coming up, number of other ones as well. But I think the point is, while the laws and the new laws have kind of slowed down a little bit, and that could change again if another relief bill goes through, but we're catching up now a little bit, and we're starting to see the actions coming from it. So be vigilant, be aware, make sure that you're following the FFCRA and the CARES Act and all of the requirements. And there's been a lot of Department of Labor actions going out trying to enforce, employees who haven't been given extended or emergency family leave or emergency paid leave under the law. So it's the time now where we're starting to see those things creep in, and we're going to see a lot more of them as we go on. And that is your update for this week.
Keith, quick question. I was on a call earlier this week, and there was some commentary about, employers who do have employees working from home who haven't had to furlough them, and they're likely non-exempt, and then just offering these sort of flexible work schedules. What's your advice on sort of capturing all of the hours and minutes that people are working that are exempt? Do you have advice for HR professionals or employers about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because when we're talking about non-exempt employees, it's the employer's burden to track the hours and to report the hours. And when we lose control over that by the employees working from home, we've got to double down on whatever processes we're putting in place. We've got to be very clear to them only to work the hours that they're permitted to work, and we've got to be very clear to them to record all hours, and more so than we normally do maybe in the workplace, because there are potentially other ways we can tell when they're at work and when they're not. But it's going to be the employer's burden to show. And if the employee ends up making a wage claim, which I'm sure that will become one of the more common claims we see, non-exempt employees saying, I worked a lot more than 40 hours that week, I should have gotten paid for it. It's not enough for the employer to say, well, we just told them to work 40. I can't control what they did beyond that. That's the obligation on us as the employer, as HR, to make sure that we record it. So whatever policy or process you put in place, you've got to enforce that so that the employees are tracking actual hours that they work every day, and you're keeping a record of that.
Yeah, maybe even frequent reminders, right from the employer's perspective, if the
Absolutely.
CEO or the leader of HR is sending out reminders on a regular basis or announcements or something like that. But that's come up a couple of times, so I think it's starting to cause some concern.
It'll be more common soon, I think.
Yeah. Questions for Keith?
So Keith, to be clear,
Oh.
you still
Got stuck there, Michael. I'm.
Try that again.
school law.
You got stuck. Could you say that again, Michael?
I said you still can't threaten to shoot people on social media?
No, it's still not a good idea. So get that out of your head, Michael.
Yeah.
Or the governor on a voicemail or on a recorded line.
No.
Any other serious questions for Keith?
That's serious.
All right. Thank you, Keith.
Sure.
Well, certainly can come back if anyone thinks of anything else.
Yep.
So as I said, we are very happy to have Annette Favorite on the call with us today. We were introduced to Annette through a few other very mutually respected CHROs that we know, and said we needed to talk to her because she's doing great stuff. And there's your introduction, Annette. So I'll let you take it from there. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Oh, go off mute. There you go.
All right, I gotta
There you
remember to
go.
get off mute.
There you go.
All right, thank you, Shelley. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and hopefully I will be able to share some wisdom of some of the things that we're doing at West. when Shelley and I first spoke, she asked that I speak about something that's a little bit unique and different. And I was trying to say, okay, well, we're in crisis mode, but there is some creativity that my team is engaging in right now. So I wanted to share with you all how we are utilizing our current workforce to help us define what the world of work will look like post-COVID-19, whenever that may be. So if I may go to the next slide, I'd like to share just a little bit about who West is. I don't know how many people know about West. I'll be honest with you, before I joined West, I had no clue what West was. I actually thought we were a pharmaceutical company, and actually we're a manufacturing company. We're a supplier to the pharmaceutical industry, and what we do is we manufacture containment and delivery devices for injectable medicines. So if you think about when you go get a flu shot, chances are you're coming into contact with some of our products, be it the vial, the stopper, the seal, the actual needle device, the injection that's given to you, it's the plunger, it's the needle shield, that are all the components that we produce. As you can imagine, we are an essential function, an essential business, and therefore we are continuing to maintain our operations, and we have been maintaining them from day one. And we are a global company, so not only am I responsible for what's going on in the United States, I have to keep an eye out with regards to all of the other countries where we operate. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that we have operations, 25 plants in 25 different countries where we operate. And it's quite challenging, especially when you have countries that are closing state borders, as in India, or when you have the Malaysian government shutting down the border to Singapore, where we have a significant number of employees who are Malaysian and travel to Singapore to work, and they can't do it now. So it's been quite challenging, but very quickly, we're round number, we're a $1.8 billion company and growing. We do have the 25 manufacturing facilities around the globe, and in total with our sales force, we operate in 50 countries. And we produce in excess of 100 million components daily. And I can share with you that as part of the companies that are working on the vaccines, as well as the testing, we're also part of that. And therefore you can imagine that our production is increased, and we are having challenges meeting the requirements that we need to help and support our customers. Moving to the next slide, I really want to get into what we're looking at in terms of how do we continue operations in this new world. And what we are going to be conducting is a jam. I'm not sure if you all are aware of what a jam is, but think of it kind of as crowdsourcing. It's another listening program. We already do pulse surveys, we do engagement surveys, but this is slightly different. And Shelley, if you can go to the next slide, what you see here is we have themes that we're looking at trying to engage our workforce to help us solve some of the issues that we are anticipating happening post-COVID-19. So very quickly, you can see the purpose of this jam. It's on the top left-hand corner, where we're trying to understand how do we manage work, how do we maintain our culture, how do we continue the innovation and the productivity that we have gained during this time as we've had to transition from the way we worked. How do we do that going forward? So we're going to have a 24-hour jam, whereby we're going to have our employees, our team members, help us solve some major problems. And the discussion topics are at the bottom. But before I go there, one of the things I want to share is this is going to be moderated by our senior leaders. So think of the C-suite, think of the layer 2 executives that we have, to make sure that we have a global picture of someone facilitating and engaging in the dialogue and assessing the ideas that we get back. We also, with this jam, by by having it be for our salaried workforce, because it's going to be predominantly the salaried workforce, by having us engage with our salaried workforce, we're able to drive some accountability in terms of what we actually end up doing as a result of the jam. So ideas that come up, we will have an executive sponsor, we will have key members, maybe even individuals who came up with the idea that you normally wouldn't have dialogue with, have them help us and be on the team to help us with driving the initiative. So in terms of the topics of what we're looking for, I mentioned it was about how do we continue with the way of working in the future? How do we leverage, as I said, the innovation that has happened as a result of us having to work from home? West was historically, it's over 97 years old, and it's very paper, manually driven. And as a result of COVID-19, we have had to learn how to do things much more simple. We have been able to simplify processes. We have had individuals, because of necessity, say, this work doesn't need to be done anymore because there is no value. So there's innovation that's happening from a work process perspective. We've become much more agile. We've become much more accepting of you don't have to be perfect. So the agile methodology of creation, of process improvement is coming in and holding firm into our way of working. So how do you capitalize on that and continue it going forward? I think someone said earlier on another call, there's been an incredible amount of productivity that has occurred with people working from home. Well, I'd like to think that productivity is not because we're all on our systems from 7 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night because you have nowhere else to go, but that there really is the idea generation that's happening, and we want to continue to capitalize that. In addition, with ways of working, we're looking at what parts of our workforce no longer need to come into a facility. We were in the process of leasing more space across the street from our headquarters facility. We're actually, leasing it, retrofitting it, ready to send a group of folks that we're planning on moving over there. Well, given what's happened, do they really need to move over there, or can they work remote? The other thing from a ways of working perspective is we are actually looking at establishing much more hoteling and leveraging technology such as you see when you have to reserve a parking space in New York City or in Philadelphia. I don't know if you use like Spot Hero. We're trying to take that software, that application, that technology, and apply it to work and lay out our facilities so that people can reserve a desk, and then automatically it will block off anyone that's less than 6 feet so that you can't reserve, right? So you're actually going to be coming in and reserving. So here we are, a manufacturing company leveraging technology to help us through this. And again, applying agile methodology to everything that we do, and defining who really, really needs to come into the office. I will also say we are not pushing anyone to come back into the office except those that are absolutely required to come in. So we have labs, and the lab that we have in the headquarters, those folks have to come in, and like most all of you, we're leveraging staggered shift start times. We're saying, when you have to come in, you can do the work that you have to do in the facility, and stuff that you don't have to do at your desk or with the machinery that we have, take it home and do it there. So can we continue that? And we've also added some shifts throughout the day so that people have more flexibility in terms of coming and going. From a relationships perspective, we pride ourselves in the products that we produce, the quality of the product, and that requires, given the industry we're in, a tremendous amount of trust amongst our team members. right? So how do we continue in this world of remote working? How do you continue to have that trust in everything that you do, right? And that you know that your team member is accountable, they're going to deliver what they say. So how do we continue to build that One West team, that drive of we can work virtually and I know the work will get done, that trust. It's really a cultural statement to a certain degree. But it's going to be much harder, especially when you look at new hires that are coming in, because we are continuing to hire. In fact, I can't hire enough at the moment, especially in our operations facilities. But how do you build that trusting relationship with a new hire who you hire, they come in, they get their laptop, and then they leave. And it's now a remote relationship that you have. So how do you build those relationships would be the other theme. And then the last theme is about culture. Now I mentioned West is a company that's 97 years old. We have a very deep culture. But in 2015, when we had our new CEO, he flipped the organization and we went from a decentralized organization or enterprise to a very centralized enterprise. With that change, I will share the C-suite pretty much has been completely changed out. About 43% of our population is new to West since 2015 or later. So we have very much a blend of West legacy and what I will call New West. When you look at our senior leadership team or our executive team, so anyone who receives equity as part of their compensation, roughly 53% of that population is new to that level. Part of it, quite frankly, I'm pretty much 50-50 in terms of part of it was internal promotions into the executive rank, and then another 50% of that was external hires. So we're a blending company where, you know, our culture is changing. And we're very much operating much more globally. But because we are in a transformation, and we've been in this transformation from 2016, how do we keep the momentum of our culture? How do we keep that driving? How do we continue to cement that cultural transformation that we are experiencing when we're in this new mode? I mean, you know, West has some very great core values, incredibly good values, and it's one of the reasons why I joined the company. But at the same vein, because we have changed, because we have evolved, how do we continue that transformation and continue developing the culture of what we want to be? So those are the three themes that we've agreed to cover in this jam with the senior leadership team, with our CEO. And if you go to the next slide, I wanted to share with you a little bit about kind of the framework of how that was going to work. So again, we have senior leadership sponsorship. We're going to have some communications because we want to drive the energy around it. Again, it's global, so much of this is going to have to be translated, and we got to get our leaders involved at the various plants and locations to drive that energy. We're going to have to do the marketing because West is not used to having jams. We've done it once before. It was a very simple jam. It lasted, again, 24 hours, but it was very, very simple, and it was just done through Yammer. This time it's going to be much more elaborate and via Teams. So we need to make sure that we get the HR leaders engaged and the talking to our stakeholders to get them supportive of this. And then during the jam, as I said, we're going to have the C-suite and the layer 2 below to really get engaged in the jam. They're going to have to foster some of the rooms in which we discuss these various themes. And then from that, the idea is we will do the assessment, the analytics around the ideas that came through, and have a senior leader be a sponsor of some of those recommendations and then pull that through the organization along with pulling perhaps teams together that will work on it and report out to show what we're doing with it and what the progress is. At the end of the day, you know, this isn't rocket scientist work. We are doing it, we are using it with technology. We're trying to drive that excitement because we're not a tech company. But I have found in my past life and in my current life that the best way to come up with initiatives and programs that are of value to our employees is to hear directly from them. And so as part of trying to figure out how we're going to work in the future, this is one of the things that we're going to be doing. So with that, that ends my presentation. I didn't know if anyone would have any questions or wish to talk about this or anything else. I'm happy to share.
I'll get us started. That was, I didn't know what JAM stood for. I'm not sure if I'm the only person in the room. Is it an acronym for something, Annette?
It's just pretty much like crowdsourcing of ideas.
Yeah. And were you the one that proposed this to the leadership? And then I guess the follow-up is, since you've only ever done it once before, was that successful in the past, or was there resistance to talking about such a huge initiative in this way?
Yeah. So I have done it multiple times. My previous employer, I was with IBM, which was an IT company, and we did jams quite a bit. So I was used to doing this as a means to solve a problem, you know, get these ideas. So in my past life, it worked very well. And what I was trying to do is to bring this over to a manufacturing company when I first joined. The first jam had to do with refreshing our mission, vision, and values. So it was very specific, you know, what do you think our vision should be? What do we want to be? How does that apply to our mission? And then what are our values? And as a result of that jam, it wasn't as sophisticated as the ones I'm used to, nor is it as more mature as the one we're going to do here. But it did result in a change in our mission statement, our vision, as well as our values. You know, we used to have this long list of like 12 value statement that no one could remember. And through this jam, we've got down to 3, you know, leadership and quality, passion for our customers, and this One West team. I will share with you that because West is a 97-year-old company, it has taken a while for this change to take hold. But I'm seeing through COVID-19, this pandemic, that it is actually taking hold. People now understand more the actions that were taken to standardize across the company. Why is it important to be One West? What does it mean to have passion for the customer? So that was successful. I hope this one will be successful, but it's a lot more difficult, right? It's a much more thornier problem that we're trying to solve here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
This is Lynn. As a follow-up to that question and to your response, do you think if COVID never happened, would you be going through this jam session, given, you know, the changes that you've described in the business and the old and the new?
Yeah. We wouldn't be forced to go through this change, right? What's happened is that, I mean, we were talking about the traditional culture surveys, the traditional engagement surveys, but because we're now all remote, it has resulted in us rethinking, is this the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to do a culture survey or an engagement survey? You know, the world has changed dramatically. We need to understand how we're going to work together. So let's try this technology, right? West historically has had you have to be in the office. That's how we've always been. Now, with us having this extended period of work at home and the ability that we were able to go to work from home very quickly has really changed the mindset of many managers. And so I will tell you, Lynn, we are going to be a very different company. You can feel it, you can see it. We are now becoming a very different company. And this will have lasting effect on us. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question that came into chat for you, Annette. It says, you have an output measure, for example, senior sponsorship of 4 to 5 recommendations per initiative. Do you have an input measure? So for example, the number of ideas, percentage of team or locations participating, etc.
No, we don't.
James
I don't. Yeah, I don't have an input measure. I'm hoping that people will want to engage. If past surveys are an indication of success or participation, I can tell you we do achieve high participation in our pulse surveys, in our engagement surveys, and what have you. So I anticipate this will be well. I'll have to come back and tell you if it is or not. But I don't have an input. I don't anticipate having a lack of ideas, because believe me, I've got a lot of team members, employees writing me about things that we need to be doing and what's working and what's not.
Thanks, James, for the question. Who else?
That was actually something, Annette, that you just said. I was going to ask you about how you decide what the 4 to 5 recommendations are, and do you communicate how you chose the areas of focus? Because I know a lot of times if you ask for feedback, you're definitely going to get it. And then how do you follow up with folks to let them know these are the ideas we chose and why, so you don't discourage future feedback in the mentality of, well, I made a suggestion once, they didn't do what I asked, so I'm not going to participate in future engagements.
Right. So Talia, we tend to be, I come from the school of thought that we really need to be as transparent as possible. So we will come back out and share, okay, here were the top ideas, and we can show the percentages, because we're going to have our IT people do the analytics around it to help us pull out those things, right? And so the communication will go back to our employees to say, hey, thank you for participating in this jam. Here are the ideas that have come up. Here are the ones we're going to pursue at this time. And then as a result of a normal cadence, we're going to continue to report out on how we're doing. That's kind of the way we do our engagement surveys, as well as our pulse surveys, right? And in some cases, we actually show in our pulse surveys the percentages of favorable or unfavorable, just to be completely transparent. Because as you said, the worst thing we can do is ask for feedback and then be silent or not do anything. That's the worst thing we could do. So we are very transparent, and my communications team is very, I've got a very good, strong communications team. Yeah. One comment I'll make with regards to our engagement surveys. We did a baseline survey, and we were actually supposed to do another survey this time. In between, we've done pulse surveys. But one of the reason why I don't subscribe to yearly engagement surveys is because you don't really have enough time to act on it. So I'd rather spend the money on taking, doing initiatives to act on the recommendations that come through and the areas that we need to improve before I measure again. So we try to do like every other year, every 2 years, to show real progress and have our employees comment.
It looks like Pam has a question. Pam, if you want to take yourself off mute, you're welcome to ask, or I could read it for you. It's up to you. Oh, can't hear you. Try again. There you go. No luck. All right, let me read it, and then if you get through, you can let us know. So Pam said, I love that you use this as a leading indicator versus a lagging indicator, as pulse and engagement surveys can sometimes be. With that said, I'm curious to know the vetting process that will be used for each of these areas of focus.
Are you asking about the vetting process in terms of how we came up with the ideas, or the vetting process once we get the ideas?
I think she's typing.
Okay. The latter. So once we get the ideas.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of it's going to be on an assessment of what are the ideas that actually rise to the top in terms of what is it that's resonating with the population as you're going through the jam. You know, what are the ones that are getting the likes, if you will, what do they call it when you amplify, the amplifications of the ideas. That will be done, and then I will sit down with the senior leadership team and say, okay, here's what's come through. You as a facilitator, what did you think are the initiatives that we can actually go forward with? And then we will do our prioritization. You may have some ideas that say, hey, everyone should work from home. Well, the reality of it is not everyone can work from home. We cannot equip everyone. So we have to do some sanity checks, if you will, on those ideas. And we as a senior leadership team will sit down. I'm very fortunate. I have a very good set of colleagues that we sit down and discuss. And part of it is driven by the fact that we are a company in change. We're all new, we have different perspectives. We're all globally minded because many of us have worked outside the United States. So we have that viewpoint. And we're, you know, there is this common desire to help define the new culture at West, you know, where we're headed, this transformation. And so we're all active in it, and I can get us all together and we'll assess it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Pam. Yeah. Feel free to take yourself off mute and ask Annette a question.
Hi, it's Lisa. I have a question. I'm really curious. I have a suspicion that you're going to see the culture change faster than you had expected and desired to as being part of that new team. But I'm really curious about the receptivity you're starting to see from the managers that used to take that hard line of, if I can't see you, you're not getting the work done.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right. This is actually, we're seeing the change much faster than I ever wanted. And I will be very honest and share with you that as a CHRO, I'm going to capitalize it and take full advantage of it. Because when I first came here, I was surprised at how the deep ingrained, I have to see you at work to know you're working. I came from a world where many people work remote. In fact, I had worked remote several times, and I introduced certain programs at West to provide transition to retirement, alternate work arrangements so people could balance life and personal life and business work and balance that a little bit better in times of need. But it never really took off. I mean, it never took, even when I introduced parental leave, which you would think, oh my gosh, here we are in 2016. Why do you not have parental leave? You know, that didn't take off for a while because the adoptive parents or the males, specifically the males, didn't want to take parental leave. And you're like, really? You know, like, you need to take parental leave. You got to bond with your kids too, you know? But you know, I'm going to capitalize on this without a doubt. And what you're seeing is because we have not lost productivity, that managers are now, it's clicking for them. It's very, you know, it's, let me see what's happening. Show me the money, right? Show me what's really happening. You know, are we able to continue to have minimal, if any, disruptions to the business? And that's, you know, the proof in the pudding, I guess, is the saying. And so managers are accepting it. Now, I've had to equip our managers to understand, how do you manage a remote workforce? How do you manage in a time of crisis? So we've equipped them with that. My partners, my business partners, are very much attached to the management team. We require them to have a daily stand-up call with the teams. So we've engaged them and equipped them, and again, they're seeing the results of our productivity. The thing that I'm most worried about, I'm most worried about is the mental health of our employees, and is the productivity due to them working all the time, or is it true productivity? I see signs of people working very long hours, but I also see signs of improvement. I just can't seem to gauge it well enough. Yeah. But yes, I have to say I'm going to take advantage of this crisis.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious, Annette, and you touched on this a bit in terms of, sort of the onboarding process and ingraining the new hires into your culture. I haven't heard, I think this is so tricky, right? So I'm curious if you're finding success with any one thing, if that's becoming easier, how you're handling that.
Yeah. Michael, I got to tell you, I can't say that I'm having success or not. It's too soon. It's not ideal. So the way we onboard our employees is if they're going to be remote, we have them come in. We try to do a lot of onboarding before they come in. So they have, Teams meetings with their recruiter, their buddy, because we do assign buddies to help them get ready to come into the facility to get their equipment. And then when they come in, they get a very quick briefing. Usually it used to be a full day, but now it's more like 2 hours, where they are with our onboarding specialists that will come in and onboard them, make sure they get the forms in and do the required forms, but then also have a view of who is West, what we stand for, what's our mission, so that they get some sense of who we are. And then after that, we provide a checklist to our managers of these new hires to say, okay, here's your new hire. Here's the things that you have to do. You have to engage them on, make sure they're part of the team, check up on them to make sure they have the equipment that they need, or they have the tools they need to perform their roles, and have their buddy, make sure that buddy is constantly reaching out to them. It's not ideal. It honestly is not ideal, but it's working. It seems to be working. But I am worried about it. I am worried about how this is going to work going forward. I will tell you, Michael, one of the things that I think will end up happening is that our first interviews will not be in person. I'm probably going to do them video because we've become much more accustomed to it. Yeah. So there's going to be some changes to our recruiting. And then for our operations people, they obviously come in. I have the HR team take them through training and what have you. So
I keep thinking about this as I continue to hear that this has kind of changed the face of work, and so many companies and people are realizing that you don't have to be in the office. And I just wonder to myself if that really is going to be as lasting, because we have a small team by comparison, 20 people, and we've been working beautifully, remotely. We've been 100% virtual, for 2 months now. But in some regards, I think that's, because we've worked so closely together for so long. I can hear, Vicky's inflection and, and I can picture the face she's making, and I know exactly what she means. And, while I think we personally will change and have more flexibility and all of those things, like 100% virtual remote, I don't know, maybe I'm still stuck somewhere.
Yeah. Now it's clearly it's a challenge. We're trying to engage our workforce and our new hires through leveraging like our employee business resource groups. Think of them as diversity network groups. You may know them as that. We're trying to, part of the onboarding and part of being in the office is having that community, right? That's why the stand-up call every day is important, and we press our managers to do that. But if we can leverage the various diversity groups that we have within West to run these fitness challenges, book clubs, how do you balance, the women's group did one on how do you set boundaries with your children when you're working, right? Because, the home has become both your office as well as your school, and there's no break. So we're trying to leverage those initiatives that our employee business resource groups are doing to engage our people more. We also have sent out family fun packs to all of our everyone, our new hires included, to give them ideas of how do you, these virtual activities that you can go in and look at, the various museums or things that you can do with your child. And we're also looking at, are there opportunities for us to help our employees with taking care of their children through virtual babysitting club, through some kind of online education, finding them some vendors. So what we're trying to do, long story short, is to look at the employee in totality and all of the items that they are dealing with, the balls that they've got up in the air, and how do we help them so that there is a bit of a sense of community that says, you can rely on Wes to be there by your side, which is our tagline. You're more than just an employee, you're part of a community, you're part of a family, if you will. And so I don't know if that's helping or not. I hope it is. We provide a number of resources to our new hires as they onboard, but it will take them getting engaged to actually feel what it means to be West. The other thing I should share with you is that we do quarterly town hall meetings for all of our employees. We've also had video messages from the C-suite, as many of you have. There's one thing that we actually did that I thought was really cute is that for our production workers who have to go into a facility, we asked all of our employees to just do a YouTube video, a little video, record a video of what you wanted to say to our production workers. And my communications team pulled that together as a vignette, if you will. We had 3 of them. And it was really cool to see people bring in their families, their dogs, make signs. And it was very uplifting. And then you can see the lights going off on Yammer about people talking about it. So, it's how do you create that culture virtually now is what we're struggling with. And we're trying a number of things. So if anybody's got any ideas, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we've done a few things. We've done, trivia nights and, we did a fun running challenge for Broad Street, things like that. But again, I don't know, I drive my team crazy, but I still think that there's like no substitute for kind of being together,
Yeah, I agree.
Other questions or comments for Annette or?
Something in the chat.
There is one in the chat.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I just started a role at a new company. What advice do you have for a new hire to build relationships when there is no water cooler talk? That's a good question.
It's a virtual water cooler that you have.
Yeah.
Hopefully, since you started with a new company, hopefully you do have a buddy that can help you navigate who's who and who does what. Another thing that I would share with you, and we're encouraging our team members to do, is take a break of your day. Take a break, and your colleague that you would normally talk to about, hey, look what happened with my daughter, or hey, let me tell you what's going on here. Take the time to do that. Just because you're working remote doesn't mean that you have to be stuck in front of your computer. So I would encourage you to reach out. Hopefully your manager's reaching out to you. I personally love stand-up calls. Like Michael was saying, on my stand-up calls, we do the last 10 minutes, I'll do, we did Pictionary one time. We've done trivia, famous lines in movies, just to have fun. So hopefully that's happening with your manager. But if it's not, I would encourage you to start reaching out to people, be it talking about business, but also talk about personal things.
Yeah.
I would just add to Michael's point, we have a pretty tight knit group, but we have a standing meeting every morning. First thing, it's not long, but I would say we probably spend half of the meeting just catching up on what's going on with each other's lives, not work. And I think people really need that right now.
Yeah, when you can't walk down the hall and say, how was the weekend? How was your son's soccer tournament this weekend? Because you do that while you're pouring the cup of coffee and getting the creamer. I was sharing with someone earlier, I work sometimes at a client site where there's 900 people, and I'm an early riser. And so I typically get to the office early, and I always go to this one coffee station, and I see a woman named Priscilla who also likes to run. I don't know her last name or what she does at the company of my client, but I always see her getting coffee. And I've been thinking a lot about her. Like, I wonder how Priscilla's doing with her running. She was going to run Broad Street, and did she do something virtual? And it's just even those small little connections that I think you feel ripped away from. So I can imagine how difficult it must be if you're a new person and you don't have those opportunities. Hopefully your organization or your manager is having these kinds of informal stand-up meetings, whatever those are. And if not, maybe you would encourage him or her to have them in some fashion. I think it was Kyla who asked that question. So hopefully that helps. Kyla.
Yeah, Kyla, I'll
Yeah.
offer you just my insights as a coach. You have a couple of key questions that you ask everybody that has nothing to do with work, and say, okay, well, this is the part when I'm meeting you where I want to get to know you and I want you to get to know me. So I'll tell you my answers and then I want to hear yours. Just something standard, then it doesn't feel so artificial. Because it's so natural when you run into someone to chat. You just may need to put something in your repertoire that lets you do that.
That's a great idea, Lisa. I love that.
Yeah.
And Annette, I think you made a really great point earlier when you talked about the productivity and at what cost is that. And I think we need to really do everything we can to be as aware of the mental health and the emotional well-being of the employees, because out of sight, out of mind. And, great, they're producing, they're getting the job done, but not everyone recognizes, like you did, that there could be a dark side to that too. And I think we really need to focus on that and making sure that we're checking in a lot, and like Vicki and Michael with their meetings. And I think a lot of people can lose sight of that.
Yeah, I'm very worried about that. And we're trying, like I said, to look at the employee holistically. So these family activity packs, the engaging the employee and their family members in, doing little videos. I mean, it's a way to have fun at work, just, social distance, stay at home, right? So we're trying everything possible, but I'm very much worried about that.
I want to suggest too, I just thought of an idea for Kyla or others. One of my clients surveyed their employees and asked similarly, because you couldn't bump into each other, or perhaps if we all sat in the same pod, we watched the same TV show or had a little informal book club. They launched a survey and asked their employees if they wanted to participate in what they're calling an at-home club. So it's, cooking, running, movies, whatever. The survey asks an open-ended question, and then they're going to group those individuals together who, let's say, want to have a cooking club together. They're going to send an email saying, these are the 20 of you who want to be in a cooking club. There you go have fun. And provide some IT platform where they can maybe share recipes, like on Microsoft Teams or something like that. So helping to create those opportunities to interact in a way that isn't as natural now. So just one small idea I wanted to share.
Yeah, I noticed in the chat that Pamela Seaplow mentioned these kudo boards. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I think I heard something recently that if you can give like a 20-second hug or these random acts of kindness, it boosts your energy, tenfold or whatever. I don't know the actual statistic, but those kudo boards are incredibly good just to make you feel good and the person that you're recognizing or the individuals you're recognizing feel good. And it can be very infectious.
Yeah.
Right? So if your company is not used to having your IT being used for non-work related items, I would encourage you to go to your chief digital officer or your IT CIO and ask them if they can use it, because that's what we did here at West. We asked, can our employees use Teams for personal things, right? To have these book clubs and what have you. And we had no problem with that. And knock on wood, I haven't had any issues yet. They're using it inappropriately. But it's a way to at least drive that connection. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Other thoughts or questions as we're coming down to the last few minutes of our hour together? Anything else anybody wanted to share or ask the group or Annette?
Well, I'll just say, you know, Shelley, I'm happy to help anyone that I can. I don't have the secret sauce. We're creating it as we go. I know that it's great from a CHRO perspective to have the sharing that's being done. So I like to be on these so I can hear what others are doing. But if I can be of help, you know, anyone, please reach out to me.
Thank you, Annette. Thanks for taking the time to prepare and chat with us today. We appreciate it. We know you're a busy person, so thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I guess I would just close by saying if anybody knows of any other great leader who might be willing to share some of the unique things that they're doing that would benefit this group, please reach out to one of us. We're happy to talk to those individuals. Stay well, everybody. Take care of yourself and look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.
Thanks.
Great week.
Have a good one.
Thank you.